Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello, welcome.
I want to introduce you. You know Arati, and as our special invited guest tonight, we have the amazing, knowledgeable, all-knowing Moriah Nangle, who fostered
Hey,
and ran the foster program and did adoptions with Wonder Dog for many, many years. Take it away, ladies.
almost 10 years.
Yeah, so we're very lucky to have Mariah here today, and we're going to talk a little bit about leash walking and leash reactivity. And Mariah, you get started, and we'll jump in to add to your expertise.
All right, let me get my notes. There's a lot of, I think there's just a lot of small things that go along with leash walking that, maybe people don't really realize or notice. What I see happen a lot of times, because I live in a pet friendly building, so there's a lot of interactions with other dogs. And one of the things that people do is, they're automatically pulling the dog back, and the dog is like, "What's wrong? What's going on?" And so they're almost like, showing them that there's going to be something wrong with this interaction. And so then, of course, the dog's going to be scared or reactive, like, oh, what's it, what should I do now? And so, I think sometimes people do that to overcompensate, because either they're nervous about their dog or they're nervous about the other dog. And I think that actually defeats the purpose. It just kind of makes it makes them, it kind of solidifies them even more to being scared in those types of situations. The other thing is, like, leash walking is not normal for dogs in a regular setting. The way that dogs normally come up to meet each other isn't being yanked on a leash or choked by a collar or whatever. They usually are free, and they're able to meet each other the way that they know how, which is noses and sniffing, and whatever other posturing and smelling butts and all those things that they do. And they're kind of like, "Oh, nice to meet you," shaking their hand. Where, as when we have them on a leash, it's kind of confusing for them, because they don't have the opportunity to do what's natural for them in a
They
way.
automatically feel more constricted, especially if
Yeah,
you've got the leash with the harness in the back and it's pulling them from the back. It's automatically like they're pushing against that force, right? So that's
yeah,
already some tension that's being introduced rather than them being able to kind of freely go up and meet.
yeah. Run up and, "Hey, buddy, hey, I'm
Yeah.
here." And you can always tell, even just from their body language, how different that is. And then a lot of times, though, because some other dogs don't have that experience enough, they're like, "Whoa," and then you get that, the dog is like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" Because they don't have enough good positive experiences being able to meet dogs in their own way. So that's
Mhm.
another thing that comes up. Let me see what else I've got here.
And I'll
Uh,
jump in and add,
oh,
I have a Chihuahua mix.
yeah,
So
me
some
too.
might imagine he's quite leash reactive because he's just
Yeah,
a small dog in a big world. And I think the big mistake that made early on when I was walking him is feeling that I had to like, I was like, this is a problem that has to be solved. His reactivity has to be solved. And so I was like, every time we meet another dog, I would always ask, I'd say, hey, is it okay for our dogs to say hi? But I was really like forcing him through a lot of interactions.
hmm,
And the truth is, it was just spiking his cortisol up, right? Like every
yeah,
time he has a negative interaction, that's now part of his story for that walk. And so the
yeah,
next time he sees a dog, it's not like he's getting exposure therapy and getting more used to it. It's actually like it's filling his cup, it's filling his cup, it's filling his cup. He's reached his threshold and now he's lost it. So
yeah.
I try to be much more discerning about like, okay, if this is a situation that's going to make him anxious, I don't want to freak him out. I don't want to overcompensate, like you're saying. But if I see a dog and he hasn't seen the dog yet, he doesn't have to go meet that dog immediately.
Not everyone.
I
Yeah,
can create space and make it a space where he is able to meet dogs when he's feeling confident, not when he's feeling stressed. So that's
right.
one.
Or forced into it when you're
Right.
walking them over. I have two dogs, and one is more outgoing and more willing to meet dogs, and the other one is like, and so usually I let him meet dogs first
Mm,
and kind of diffuse the situation and kind of show like, hey, everything's okay. And a lot of times it calms down my girl who is more scared, and then she's willing to meet them as well. But again, I don't do anything that would be uncomfortable, and it's always good to check with other people if like, oh, can we say hi, because some dogs aren't really into saying hi like you said. So I mean, that's you just want to be mindful. The other thing I do is I use a short leash.
Mm,
I use a 4-foot leash. That's my preference. I don't really I want to have my dog close by,
mhm.
mhm.
and to be able to keep them close by, I think it's more safe. And and the other thing is the dog shouldn't be walking 5 feet in front of you. They should be walking next to you, and a lot of times my dogs actually walk behind me.
Yeah. What
So
did you have
but
training or structures that you put in place when you started walking your dogs when you first got them to get them used to that, like learning how to walk with next to you?
it's really easy. You see those guys on TV like Caesar Milan and those guys, they just pick up the leash and start walking with the dog, and it's totally fine. That's kind of what I did. I just picked the leash and I just keep them next to me.
Right.
And the other thing that helped was the harness that I have, the front clip harness, because it pulls
Uh,
them
yeah,
sideways. So
exactly.
that really changed the way that they walked, and so now they don't really pull, and I don't really have to worry about it as much. The other thing that I think is super important too is to have treats
Yep.
with you at all times. I'm guilty of not grabbing treats, and I there's so many times that I could have used them. You have to have like a pack or something, like a bag or something that you just all take every time you walk the dogs or dog, because what Linda taught me was about redirecting the dog to you with a treat instead of them barking like maniacs at a dog across the street. And so I mean, you can speak on that, Linda, but it took me a long time and to get my dogs to actually get used to that, and be able to break away from that, and sit down and ignore what's going on, and getting a treat from me. And it took a long time, but it does work. And they'll still do it. I mean, if I have stuff with me, they're perfectly content with just getting a piece of chicken or a hot dog or whatever. For me,
Totally. Yeah.
it's really
High value
important.
treats, high
Yeah,
value treats.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, to have, just for any positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to interject something because
Please.
you both made two sides of a really good point. You talked about how you learned to redirect your
Mhm.
dogs,
Mhm.
and then you talked about uh-oh, what did you talk about?
Just giving them space, like not feeling like every
Yeah.
single meeting
Well,
has to
no,
happen.
yeah. Oh, you talked about like when you see them, they don't have your dog doesn't have to meet that
Yeah.
dog right now. He can meet him later. But how do you do that? So here's what I learned from volunteering years ago at the SPCA, that the big lesson is dogs learn by consequence and association. So the human version of that is like every time I saw you, I pinched you, every time. The consequence would
Yeah.
be that you would avoid me and you would develop a negative
Right.
association toward me. If every time I saw you as like, so good to see you. Hey, I found a $20 bill.
Thanks.
Like you would want to see me
Mhm.
because you're going to, and with dogs, the connection time, I could say to you next week, I'll give you $20 and you'll
Yeah.
remember. With a dog, you have to do it within a 1 to 2 second range. That's what I learned.
Hmm.
And so, and that's why you want to carry your treats. That's why if a dog is clicker trained, you can click right away. Might take 5 seconds to get a treat out. But what they said in the Growly Dog seminar is that you have to see the other dog before
Mhm.
they do.
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
If you
Yes.
see the dog before they do, you pull out your treat, it's like, sit, he doesn't know yet, sit. And then you lure them around the
Mhm.
corner, up some
Mhm.
stairs, around a car, so that the other dog passes. And while that dog's passing, you're giving him a couple of
Yep.
treats. If your dog sees the other dog and starts rah, 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 rah,
It's too late.
it's too late. You just have to get out of town.
Yeah.
And you could take a treat, but you're going to use the treat to lure the dog
Right.
out of the way. And then you're not going to reward that, but you're going to ask them to sit, give them a
Decompress.
second, get to sit and reward that
Right.
behavior. And
Right. Because it's
and
not the
they
dog's fault. They're over their threshold. They can't hear
but
you anymore.
but they learn so quickly.
Oh, 100%.
They learn so quickly. And I know I talk to a lot of people that say, I don't like to use treats. That's a bunch of hooey. But well, they can do that, but it works.
It totally does. And I'll add on to that and say if you've got a dog that is really reactive and really just getting amped up and you have a hard time when you're outside with the dog and they're just pulling and lunging and all this stuff and you can't get them to listen, start even slower, right? Start small. Start
Mhm.
by putting a leash on them but not leaving your place yet and give them treats and have them listen to commands, right? Then you open the door and you're just in the hallway right before you leave your apartment building, or you're just on your front porch right before you get onto the street and they have their leash on and you're giving them treats. So you can build up slowly because
Some dogs need
some
that.
dogs need it. And
Yeah.
if you're in the situation where you're on the street with your dog and they're already just
Yeah.
threshold
Yeah.
up here, no longer able to listen to you,
Of
then
course.
you can do it earlier, right? You can shake the leash and they hear the sound and then you treat them for
Yeah.
listening to commands. So just start by just really small ways to get them in the mindset of like this is what it feels like to be on a walk, and treat them for good behavior and like have them get excited and then listen to a command, and then you're slowly building up their confidence, because then when you do get to that point where you're walking them on a leash, you're able to actually get them to listen to you. So I found that's also really helpful.
Yeah. Like I said, it took a long time
So I can get too
for my dogs.
I can get too technical with things. Mariah, break this down into something easier to understand about how you always want to work below the dog's threshold to react.
That was what Arati was saying. I mean, I think that like working with my dogs to sit at home and knowing that they have they can do sit, they can get a treat, and kind of like mastering that is good. And then that way when you're out on the street, they've got that down and they can do it almost automatically.
Mhm.
I try to just keep my dogs focused on the treat instead of even getting to that point of getting worked up. And there's sometimes it's not going to happen, but um, just as long as you're trying to do everything, in a positive way, and you're walking and you have consistency, and the more you do that, the less likely they're going to be getting all worked up and getting, over some threshold.
Yes. And to your point, and to the point that you made at the very beginning, so much of it is also it's our energy. And if
Yeah.
a dog is barking at another dog, I used to use the term leash aggressive, and I remember I was in like a training class, and the guy was like, "I don't really like
Uh,
using that word.
no.
Like that's
Yeah.
not like he's not leash aggressive. Like
No.
everybody reacts to things. If you go to an unexpected place and there's all these loud noises and somebody's yelling across the street, you're gonna react to that. That's
Yeah.
normal behavior, right? So your dog is just doing the same thing, and just because you don't maybe recognize it as a reason to react doesn't mean your dog feels the same way.
Yeah.
I think thinking of it as a thing that you have to punish or solve necessarily is not right. It's that you are creating a space for your dog to feel safe and confident.
Yeah.
And I think it can be hard. I think we lose our patience sometimes. I think we get frustrated. Not every single time is going to be perfect, but as much as possible, trying to stay calm. If you lose the battle on that one, they see the
Yeah.
before you do, they're barking. You get out of there, you calm them down, you treat them, you move on. I've had to end walks early because I've been like, you know what, this wasn't great for you.
Yeah.
This was a hard walk for you. You saw a lot of dogs. You got really stressed out. I think we just gotta. We're gonna go home. We're gonna rest. We're gonna try again tomorrow, and that's okay. That's not
Yeah.
anybody's fault.
So why can't you just pull on the leash if the dog's pulling and barking? Why don't you yank?
Because that just makes it worse. I mean, honestly.
You know that, but a
Yeah.
lot of people don't.
I was outside walking past this guy. and he was forcing the dog's head into the curb to stop it from barking.
Oh,
With a
I mean,
shoe?
no, just with his hand, like as if that was going to stop the behavior.
yeah.
That's dumb.
That's yeah.
And I'm just like, that's not going to help. I,
Excuse me, I'm a professional.
I don't have a problem saying something, but like, in my mind, it just really bothered me for the rest of the day. Like,
Totally.
where in your head did you think that that was going to help the dog stop barking? Like,
Right.
it was baffling to me. Like, why would you, why would you think that was going to be a good thing?
And I bet you anything that guy wouldn't want someone to push his face into the curb.
right. Yeah.
Gutter.
Yeah.
I, I
You
mean,
know,
it was just mind boggling. I'm just like, oh my God.
right.
I actually talk to people all the time.
Do you really?
This
Yeah.
is what I love about Mariah. She is not afraid to say that's not going to help. What
No,
are you
I
doing?
do. I do. I talk to everybody, or whatever. And, people, the other thing is, I want to make sure we remember that energy is super important. And I'm glad you brought that up again because, people, I'm walking down the hallway with my dogs, or they're running because they like to run down the hallway. That's like a highlight. And people are like backing up. And it's like, then they get more scared because the person's backing up. I mean, it's like, don't be scared, fake it if you have to, and having confidence and leading with confidence is really going to help the dog have confidence too.
Yeah.
And I just think that people don't put enough emphasis on that, and it's so important. I mean, you can't put it into words because it's it's not something you can describe with words or something, but it's that feeling that they get of that confidence, and you just lead in, as if everything is going to go okay, and you just go. I mean,
Right.
we've had so many new dogs, and you don't know anything about the dog, and they're coming out of a shelter. God only knows what's going on with them. But I just leash them up, put a collar on, and just move on as if everything is totally normal. And no way I'm going to be, like nervous or scared, because the dog's going to be nervous and scared. So you just
Yeah.
have to just go on and, fake it until you make it or
Right.
whatever,
Right.
but don't assume that something's going to happen.
Well,
Just have,
and the dog picks up on your energy when you're
yeah,
doing that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. And sometimes, especially if it's a dog you've bonded with, the dog also thinks they're protecting you. Right. So if you're nervous and stressed out, then now this dog is like, I gotta protect, right? Like you gotta lead with confidence so the dog feels
exactly.
safe with you.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you hit the prize button because when when it is said, yeah, I've learned by listening, I'm not making these things up. But when you're walking down the street and you pull your dog's leash because they're lunging, what you're really telling them is danger, danger.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
it brings up their fight or flight thing because they
Yep.
can't get anywhere, you're pulling them back,
Right.
and they become defensive.
Yep.
And that's what makes the behavior, it can make the behavior worse.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just like learning to chill into the dog walk is a good thing.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
know that the dog is going to learn. The
Mm-hmm.
dog's going to learn if you work with him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I cannot emphasize enough. You said this earlier, but I want to say it again. The harness, the front facing harness
Yeah.
is so helpful because it's a gentle redirect rather
Yeah.
than pulling them from the
Yeah.
back. Now they're like feeling like they have to fight against the leash.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a helpful tool in addition.
Yeah.
Like,
I encourage everybody to get a harness like that if their dog's pulling, none of these prong collars and all these other things clipped on the back, and they're like walking their owner down the street. It just yeah. So there's definitely tools that you can use.
I'm going to throw a question at you, can I?
Yeah, of course.
You're walking a dog, someone else comes up with their dog, and maybe their dog is on a longer leash. The dogs meet and they start to scuffle a little. Somebody gets afraid that it's going to become a fight. Most times, they don't even break skin.
mhm.
No.
But, but you're doing that, they're doing that, and you want to break them up. How do you break them up? Just no.
Not, you don't stick your hand down there.
You definitely don't do that.
You I would just pull my dog back if that was
Mhm.
the case,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and and get away from that person if need be. I mean, if their leash was too long and they can't do it. I tell people that all the time. I said the dogs are fine, just because they go, oh, just because they had a little doesn't mean that they're going to hurt each other. People don't understand that too. And that's another thing that drives me crazy. All they're doing is communicating with each other, saying, hey, dude, I'm not in the mood, or whatever. That, I mean, they're not
Right.
ripping each other's throats. They're just communicating. That's how they communicate. And
Right.
people get so worked up about like a little woo.
Well, now that Homegrown Wisdom is official, most of the calls are from people that have to rehome their dogs.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about now is the some of these reasons why. Well, the dog bit someone. What was the bite? Let me see a picture of the wound. Did it break skin? Um, and people get really scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People, and I understand being afraid. The other thing you could do also, if you're walking down the street and you're reading the body language of someone coming toward you, or maybe about to turn the corner, and you suspect trouble, it'd be perfectly okay to reach into your treat bag. Fanny packs are good. We use
Oh,
those
Yeah.
yeah.
often. Just reach in and have that treat ready so that you can, if the sniff doesn't go well, you can say, hey, come on, and just lead your dog
Yep.
away.
So much
Exactly.
of it is about creating space for the dog. You're confident, they feel safe, you're just creating space to treat them, to reward them for good behavior.
Mhm.
Setting them up to be rewarded, really, is
Yeah,
so often, right?
yeah.
You're giving them opportunities to be like, "That was awesome." Sometimes even if
Yeah.
I give my dog a command, but he's just doing a great job of walking next to me, I'm like, "Hey, great job," and I'll treat him.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You wanna look for ways to reward them, not look for opportunities to punish them.
No,
I
you
think
can't
sometimes
punish a dog.
can't punish a dog.
I
He's
don't
just
think,
being a dog.
I mean,
Or maybe
that's
punish is the wrong word, but I think that
yeah.
people
but
often
but
are like,
people do
I have to
people.
correct the behavior rather than thinking about
Yeah.
how can I reward the good behavior in the
Yeah.
first place. Maybe that's a better way to put it.
It's
Yeah.
the same way you should treat people.
Exactly. It's being
Yeah.
You
proactive.
would think, but
Yeah, you would
I
Yeah.
think.
mean, that's how I do it. I mean,
Mm.
but not
Any
everybody.
other words of advice or questions that we want to answer?
Do you have anything
Um,
on the throat? Mariah, how do you get your dog to walk on a leash?
how do I get my dog to walk on a leash?
With you. Do you remember
Um,
like a tree?
well,
It's so long.
my dogs are ready to go out.
Mm.
We have a routine. They're always leashed before I open the door.
Mm. Neat.
um, you know, these days, my dog doesn't want to walk, so unfortunately, sometimes I have to pick her up just to get her out. But a lot of times, I just use encouraging words. Come on, let's go. We're going out. Da, 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 da," and they get excited about that. Most dogs
Yeah.
want to go on an adventure. They like it. They want to go everywhere with you, so they're
You know,
ready to go.
people have the negative bias.
Mm.
I won't go into the psychology of the negative bias, but it comes from our reptilian brain. And so I hear so much like, oh, my dog jerks me on the leash. He pulls me on the leash. They complain, complain, complain. How do you turn that around when you're encouraging somebody to
Um,
get their,
yeah, it's just like anything, right? You if you're thinking about is the negative things, it doesn't give you an opportunity to think about the good things. And if you're having issues, try to find a solution. Talk to somebody. There's so many resources out there these days, especially with dogs and animals, and um, you know uh, there's ways to prevent those things from happening if you're open to changing it. you know you
rescues
just
and rescues could probably do a better job of explaining or either giving some materials or a web page like,
Mhm.
hey, here's how to look at your first month, praise
Yeah.
your dog, give them. We just put a dog in a foster home, and this little cute white fuzzy thing, And he got there, and the woman texted you first, I
Mhm.
think, and said he's snarling at me. He
Yeah.
won't come out of his crate. It's like, oh, great. Now what are we gonna do? I put a lot into convincing my family, and then I said, maybe he's just in meltdown mode.
Yeah, just leave him alone.
He's never, well, she said, I'm tossing treats. No, she's great.
Yeah.
She said, I'm tossing treats to him, but he won't come. He won't take them from my hand.
Okay.
And I thought, well, if this is the way he is, and we weren't told about that behavior, then we have a problem to solve. But it might be that in a few days it'll clear up. And sure enough,
Abs-
it did.
of
He's still,
course it
yeah.
does. Yeah,
Right. It's a traumatizing experience, like you were saying, right?
yeah,
It's a new
yeah.
environment. You don't know anybody there. All of a sudden, you're not going to act like yourself. And
They're just
gotta,
scared. I
you
mean,
gotta
they're
give it,
just,
right. You gotta
And
recognize that
she
they're
did
scared.
everything right,
Mhm.
actually.
She did. She
yeah,
was great.
Left the dog alone. She had a 5-year-old. Her child was afraid of the dog, and she put up a baby gate, and her daughter would walk by and say hi to the dog.
And they would toss him treats,
Yeah,
and now he's just coming out of his shell. He gave her a little lick. He's following her around the house. And
yeah,
yeah,
what happens when you just create that space rather than thinking of this dog as doing something to you and
yeah.
causing
Or
problems?
it's the dog's problem rather than just giving it. I mean, anytime, think about if you were at a shelter for any period of time, it's so loud there. I mean,
Mhm.
it's loud for us just to walk through there, and these dogs are there for days and days, and they've been ripped out of their home or lost. I mean, you'd be out of sorts too, and you would need some. That's why I always, for most dogs, I set them up in a quiet room, just to give them some time to decompress and not be overstimulated with my dogs or my people or whatever the situation is,
Mhm.
because you're not going to help the dog in any way like that. Let it come to you when he's ready, just like people.
Totally.
You
Totally.
can't force them to be happy or something.
Nope. Nope.
But again, I think it's a good idea, and we don't do this. I mean, you were very hands-on with people, and we're Wonder Dog. We tend to be more hands-on probably than other people.
Yeah.
And I would tell someone, call us at any time you have a
Yeah,
problem with
exactly.
behavior. I would rather talk to them, talk through something with them, than have them take the dog to a shelter.
Exactly. And I'll say that again here. That is what this whole series is for. Homegrown is here to help people feel comfortable and confident. We want people to be able to keep their dogs in their homes, even in challenging circumstances. There's often something that can be done where you don't also have to go through the additional trauma of rehoming your dog, which is traumatizing for both of you. So we're here. You can call us, you can watch our videos, you can reach out. We're so excited to be a resource for you, and we really thank you for being a part of our community.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
You
you. See
Bye.
you next week.
doodles.